The movie Doctor Strange is about the title-like character Stephen Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, who works as a doctor in a hospital, but he then someday gets his hand seriously injured after a car accident, which means that he can't work as a doctor anymore. So he decides to do everything to heal his hands, and he even goes far enough to travel to Asia. He then comes across the Ancient One, played by Tilda Swinton, to help him regaining his ability to use his hands again, but he also has to prepare himself to fight some villains who could be powerful enough to destroy the entire universe. When I saw the trailer to Doctor Strange, I was really looking forward to this, because this looked like it would go to a darker direction like Captain America Civil War, Avengers 2, and even Guardians of the Galaxy. Unfortunately, this was not what I was getting. Even though I think that Doctor Strange was good, in my book, it could have been much better. What's the main problem I'm having? This film, for one, has an overabundance of comedy in it. I don't hate movies that have a humorous tone to them, but please do me all a favor and take a look at the trailers to this film again. All those sad trailers did have a more serious tone to them that actually made me look forward to this film in the first place. But then I watched this movie and it has a lot of inappropriate humor in it. Or let's just say they were pretty hit and miss. Some of those jokes admittedly made me laugh, like the Shambhala line, some of the scenes with Wong, and even the freaking cape that Strange wears in this film. However, I think those scenes would have been more hilarious if the movie was more serious, because to me, those parts would have actually stood out better in the process, as opposed to throwing in jokes every 30 seconds. Or to put it in shorter words, less would have definitely been more. From what I've read though, this was because some executive hacks insisted on inserting scenes with jokes in it. So I don't blame the writers, directors or actors for that, since I'm not that kind of person anyway. The visuals were great and all, sometimes even quite breathtaking. The action scenes were all well done, but not really memorable, except if it involved the visual eye candy that I previously mentioned. And the actors all did a good job. Not as Oscar-worthy as, let's just say, Captain America Civil War, but it was still solid. Benedict Cumberbatch was good as Strange, even though the parts where his character frequently jokes around felt rather unnatural to me, since Strange seems to work better for me when he's more serious. Tilda Swinton was great too. There was, or still is, a bit of a controversy surrounding her playing the character, since the Ancient One was an old Asian man in the comics, and Tilda Swinton, well, isn't. However, to me, this was this movie's least problematic aspect, and while I agree that they should have actually hired an Asian actor or actress to play the Ancient One, her performance made up for it. And who knows, since this is a movie about magic, maybe her character has the ability to shape or gender shift at will. The villain, played by Mads Mikkelsen, whose character's name I can't pronounce, didn't felt very menacing to me. But the character itself at least had some interesting motives, and I even felt some sympathy for him. But he's still far from one of the best villains out there, which to be fair seems to be one of the major weak spots for most MCU movies. Wong was a character I liked, and Kawamoto was one of the more serious characters next to the Ancient One, which is definitely a plus. Some other positives that I can give is that I liked the more serious moments in Doctor Strange, while other parts got sadly downplayed due to some forced-in jokes. The post-credit scene, which I will not spoil for you, was also one of the few moments where the jokes were actually pretty funny. One of the other parts that made this film particularly good for me was the climax at the end of this movie. There was a great mixture of creative visual effects and well-shot fighting scenes, and without giving too much away, but there's a particularly good scene at the very end of the climax that showcases the determining nature of Strange, and was enough to regain my respect for both the character and this film in general. Overall, Doctor Strange is a movie that, while I enjoyed watching it, feels inferior to previous MCU movies, which means that it has much less of a rewatch value. It's somewhere stuck between Thor 2 and Avengers 2, but who knows, maybe my mind will change about this movie once it hits home release. However, I highly doubt that this movie will get a more serious alternative cut, since also it suffered from executive meddling. The movie itself fared well enough with most critics and audiences. But hey, the fact that most of you can see the greatness that I can't is something I'm kinda jealous of, to be honest. So will I buy Doctor Strange? Probably. But I wouldn't rewatch it as often than most of the other MCU movies. I hope that the sequel goes to a more mature direction though, because the setup at the end was actually very intriguing.